Welcome to the Choices, Chances, Changes Batterers Intervention program. Here we will explore a variety of avenues to improve intimate partner relationships and reduce risks related to domestic violence. We know that beginning this process can be uncomfortable, challenging, and even stressful. We at CCC are here to help in a non-judgmental forum designed to focus on you, including thoughts and behaviors that have resulted in unhealthy relationship patterns. Today, we are going to complete the orientation for the Batterers Intervention program, also known as BIP. This orientation is a preview of some of the areas to expect to discuss in the program, including what domestic violence is, how socialization impacts domestic violence, the effects of domestic violence, gender roles, nature of violence, how to gain your maximum benefit from the program, and the rules of the program. There are a lot of misconceptions about what domestic violence actually is. Domestic violence can happen to anyone from any background. It doesn't discriminate based on age, race, sexual orientation, income, education, ability, or gender. Anyone can suffer from abuse at any time. While physical abuse might be the first thing that comes to mind when one hears the term domestic violence, an abusive partner may try to exert control in a number of other ways. This can include verbal abuse, social isolation, exerting control over finances. Remember that domestic violence is about power. Its purpose is for the abuser to control the victim in whatever form or forms it takes, through whatever means it takes. Now we are going to review a variety of statistics related to domestic violence. First, we have general statistics about domestic violence. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the US. More than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year. Nearly 3 in 10 women and 1 in 10 men in the US have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by a partner and reported it having a related impact on their functioning. Just under 15% of women and 4% of men in the US have been injured as a result of intimate partner violence that included rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the US have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year. Over 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the US have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Almost half of all women and men in the US have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. From 1994 to 2010, approximately 4 in 5 victims of intimate partner violence were female. Most female victims of intimate partner violence were previously victimized by the same offender at rates of 77% for women ages 18 to 24, 76% for ages 25 to 34, and 81% for ages 35 to 49. Now we are going to move on to sexual violence statistics. Oftentimes, people don't realize that domestic violence and sexual violence sometimes coincide. Nearly 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men have been raped in their lifetime. Nearly 1 in 10 women in the US have been raped by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 81% of women who experienced rape, stalking, or physical violence from an intimate partner reported significant impacts, short-term or long-term, like injuries or symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. 35% of men reported the same significant impacts from experiences of rape, stalking, or physical violence from an intimate partner. More than half of female victims of rape reported being raped by an intimate partner. 40.8% reported being raped by an acquaintance. For male victims, 52.4% reported being raped by an acquaintance, 15.1% reported being raped by a stranger. Estimates suggest 13% of women and 6% of men will experience sexual coercion, which is unwanted sexual penetration after being pressured in a non-physical way, in their lifetime. 27.2% of women and 11.7% of men experience unwanted sexual contact. Next, we are going to review stalking statistics. 1 in 6 women and 1 in 19 men in the US have been a victim of stalking at some point during their lifetime in which they felt fearful or believed that they or someone close to them would be harmed or killed. 2/3 of female stalking victims were stalked by current or former partners. Men who were stalked were primarily stalked by partners or acquaintances. The most common stalking tactic experienced by both female and male victims of stalking was repeated unwanted phone calls, voice, or text messages. Estimates suggest 10.7% of women and 2.1% of men have been stalked by an intimate partner during their lifetime. Domestic violence also impacts children and others around us. Here, we will review statistics for children related to domestic violence. Children witness violence in nearly 1 in 4 intimate partner violence cases filed in state courts. 30 to 60% of intimate partner violence perpetrators also abused children in the household. 40% of child abuse victims also report experiencing domestic violence. One study found that children exposed to violence in the home were 15 times more likely to be physically and/or sexually assaulted than the national average. According to the U.S. Advisory Board on Child Abuse and Neglect, domestic violence may be the single major precursor to fatalities from child abuse and neglect in the U.S. We'll transition domestic violence impacts related to teens and young adults. 9.4% of high school students reported being hit, slapped, or physically hurt intentionally by their partner in the previous 12 months. Approximately 1 in 5 women and 1 in 7 men who experienced rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner first experienced some form of partner violence between 11 and 17 years of age. More than a quarter of male victims of completed rape were first raped when they were 10 years old or younger. Approximately 35% of women who were raped as minors were also raped as adults, compared to 14% of women without an early rape history. The majority of female victims of completed rape experienced their first rape before the age of 25. 42.2% experienced their first completed rape before the age of 18. 1 in 10 high school students has experienced physical violence from a dating partner in the past year. Most females, 69%, and males, 53%, victims of rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner had their first experience with intimate partner violence before the age of 25. 43% of dating college women reported experiencing violent and abusive dating behaviors, including physical, sexual, digital, verbal, or other controlling abuse. Nearly 1 in 3 college women say they've been in abusive dating relationships. 52% of college women report knowing a friend who's experienced violent and abusive dating behaviors, including physical, sexual, digital, verbal, or other controlling abuse. "50% of college students who report experiencing dating violence and abuse said it occurred in college. 58% of college students say they don't know what to do to help someone who is a victim of dating abuse. 38% of college students say they don't know how to get help for themselves if they experience dating abuse as a victim. Over half of all college students say it's difficult to identify dating abuse. 36% of dating college students have given a dating partner their computer, email, or social media passwords. These students are more likely to experience digital dating abuse. 1 in 5 college women has been verbally abused by a dating partner. 1 in 6 college women has been sexually abused in a dating relationship. Victims of digital abuse and harassment are twice as likely to be physically abused, twice as likely to be psychologically abused, and 5 times as likely to be sexually coerced. Almost 1 in 10 teens in relationships reports having a partner tamper with their social media account, which constitutes the most frequent form of harassment or abuse. Just 1 in 5 victims say they experienced digital abuse or harassment at school during school hours. Most takes place away from school grounds. Approximately 84% of victims are psychologically abused by their partners, half are physically abused, and 1/3 experiences sexual coercion. Only 4% of victims experience only digital abuse or harassment. Social media, texts, and emails provide abusive partners with just another tool to cause harm. Next, we will discuss the impact on mental health for survivors of domestic violence. Survivors are 3 times as likely to meet the criteria for PTSD. Survivors are 2 times more likely to develop symptoms of depression and 3 times more likely to develop a major depressive disorder. Survivors are 3 times more likely to engage in self-harming behaviors. Survivors are 3 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts and 4 times more likely to attempt suicide. Survivors are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Survivors are 6 times more likely to have a substance use disorder. Here we will list some impacts that domestic violence has on the workplace. Current or former intimate partners accounted for nearly 33% of women killed in the U.S. workplaces between 2003 and 2008. In 2005, nearly 1 in 4 large private industry establishments reported at least 1 instance of domestic violence, including threats and assaults. A 2005 survey found that 64% of respondents who identified themselves as victims of domestic violence indicated that their ability to work was affected by the violence. 57% of domestic violence victims said they were distracted. Almost half feared being discovered, and 2 in 5 were afraid of an unexpected visit by their intimate partner, either by phone or in person. Nearly 2/3 of corporate executives say that domestic violence is a major problem in society. 55% cite its harmful impact on productivity in their companies. 91% of employees say that domestic violence has a negative impact on their company's bottom line. Just 43% of corporate executives agree. 71% of corporate executives do not perceive domestic violence as a major issue at their company. Over 70% of US workplaces don't have a formal program or policy to address workplace violence. Domestic violence issues lead to nearly 8 million lost days of paid work each year, the equivalent of over 32,000 full-time jobs. 96% of employed domestic violence victims experience problems at work because of the abuse. Our final area of statistics enlightens the impact firearms have in domestic violence incidents. Women in the US are 11 times more likely to be killed with guns than women in other high-income countries. Female intimate partners are more likely to be killed with a firearm than all other means combined. The presence of a gun in domestic violence situations increases the risk of homicide for women by 500%. More than half of women killed by gun violence are killed by family members or intimate partners. These images show the Duluth model, which was developed in Duluth, Minnesota to address male toward female domestic violence. These wheels have been adapted over time to continue to address domestic violence issues in and towards both genders and in additional areas, including impacts on children and society as 2 examples. Many variations can be found on the duluthmodel.org. We will heavily go over these wheels throughout the program to promote an equality relationship. Beliefs are formed from our social networks, including but not limited to family, friends, educational environments, and cultural groups. Our exposure to various values, beliefs, and views impacts our learning and decision making, which ultimately impacts our thoughts and behaviors, such as how we think and act in a relationship. Presented earlier in the statistics, domestic violence impacts the victim, children, and others in our family, social networks, and community. We will explore how these impacts can be mitigated after domestic violence has occurred and how we can stop the cycle. Gender roles impose a significant amount of the struggles in relationships. Domestic violence relationships have often moved from a honeymoon phase into gender roles and expectations. The separation of roles leads to a mentality of 50-50. However, it's beneficial to remember this quote: relationships are 100-100, divorce is 50-50. While most people think of domestic violence as physical abuse, it also encompasses emotional abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, and economical abuse. We will discuss the effects of abuse within the program in each of these areas. Oftentimes, people are initially frustrated to be required to attend a program. We are here to make this process as beneficial to you and those around you as possible. We are in this program together, so remember, attitude is everything. Our thoughts determine our beliefs, which impact our feelings, influence our actions, and lead us back to our thoughts. This program can help to improve present relationships, strained familial relationships, and future romantic relationships. You will work on thoughts, communication, behaviors, and belief systems. We want the experience to be the best for you and your peers. Please remember to maintain confidentiality. What is said in group stays in group. Respect the privacy of others. Respect each other at each of your growth processes. Show empathy for each other, the victims, and others who have been impacted. Use active listening. Attend weekly unless excused in advance. Remain engaged with the topic and your peers, and help to foster the exclusive relationships that you develop here in a supportive, growth-centered environment. At your first appointment, you completed your initial intake and assessment. Throughout the program, you will continue to be assessed for other potential needs, risk level, program progress, and readiness for completion. Now let's review the contract for participation that was signed at your intake. Understanding the expectations helps you to be successful. You completed the intake and assessment at your enrollment. You will be accountable for all abusive and violent behavior both in and out of group sessions. You're required to pay the weekly fee. You are required to attend a minimum of 26 weekly groups and must make up any sessions that you miss. You will not be given credit for any session that you do not attend entirely, have not been assigned to unless authorized, or disrupt and are directed to leave. Also, if you do not cooperate with the facilitators or do not complete all assignments. You are only authorized to have 3 consecutive or 4 random absences in the entire 29-week program. Exceeding this may result in termination from the program and potentially a restart. This termination would be reported to the courts and or other referral source. You have agreed not to attend a group session if you have used any intoxicating or mood-altering or illegal substances. You agree to inform the facilitators that you are on medication, which could alter your appearance or conduct if that occurs. You will submit random drug and alcohol screens at your own cost during the program as requested by the site. You agree to arrive at each group session in sufficient time to pay your fee and begin the session on time. You understand that the doors may be locked or you may not be admitted into the session once it has begun, and you will not receive credit for that group. You understand that you must complete the program with which you originally enrolled unless approval to change programs is obtained from the court or applicable referral source, the director of the program that you are enrolled in, and the director of the program that you are transferring to. You agree not to prevent BIP staff from contacting your partner or ex-partner, and you agree to keep the program informed of your current address and telephone number. You agree to observe confidentiality and not reveal any information about any of your fellow participants outside of group sessions. And you understand that any serious threats by you to do bodily harm to the victim or any other person, or threats to commit suicide, will be reported to the appropriate authorities in the victim court, probation, and parole, or other referral source. If there is any belief that child abuse or neglect has occurred, you understand that it will be reported pursuant to Section 39.201 Florida statutes. You understand that this program is a continuing obligation to disclose any conduct you willfully chose to engage in, which poses a threat to the victim, their property, or to third persons related to the parties. You agreed to complete all assignments and participate in group sessions. You understand that you will be expected to describe in group the abusive or violent behaviors that you have used against your partner or ex-partner and will focus on only your own behaviors. You agree not to use sexist, racist, or homophobic language and or other language of hatred in group. You understand that the program may video or audio record any group session for the purpose of internal instruction, education, research, or program monitoring. However, this session is not mandatory and you may request to attend an alternate group during the same week. You also understand visitors may come to group to observe from time to time, such as DCF staff who monitor the program in the state of Florida. You will develop a responsibility or safety plan that requires awareness of your abusive or violent behavior and patterns. You will work on the certified program in understanding violence avoidance techniques and use them appropriately. You authorize the certified program to release information to the agency that conducts your collateral treatment, if treatment is sought, and to the court, probation, parole, and any other referral source. You understand that you may be terminated from this program if you violate any part of this agreement or if you violate any order against you. Any failure to comply with this contract will be reported to the referral source within 3 working days. Throughout the program, communication will be important for a variety of reasons, such as reviewing your progress, seeing how many classes you have completed or have remaining, paying balances, and other potential program requirements. We are here to help and can be reached in the listed formats. Our office cell phone you can call or text at 352-817-0011. You can also reach us in the message option on the Simple Practice client portal. You can use the chat box in the WebEx platform during virtual classes and use breakout rooms at the end of classes. You can also come into the office during normal operating hours. Thank you for choosing CCC for your BIP journey. We look forward to working with you.